Good evening and welcome to the 7th edition of the Alabama Call-In Show right here on Alabama The Voice College Football, where yours truly, Jackson Johnson, and my partner in crime, Jeffrey at Only Talk Sports, take your calls on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Whether you're an Alabama fan, Auburn fan, Tennessee fan, we don't care who you pull for. We want to hear your takes on the Alabama Crimson Tide, the latest news and notes. And let me tell you something, it's always a wild ride and a fun ride too, especially on Thursday nights like tonight. How you doing tonight, good buddy?
I'm doing great, Jackson. Definitely excited about the rest of the season for Alabama now that things have gotten back on track. After getting that big win over LSU, that's the win they needed, the confidence they needed, and really the Missouri game too. The Missouri game, the LSU game, both of those really got Alabama's confidence back, and the Mercer game. Of course, anything can help. Even though I still think it's ridiculous you're playing that poor of opponents this late in the season, but it's the way the SEC rolls. But Bama's got their confidence back, and I'm looking forward to these last couple games to see if Alabama's growth that they've showed these past few weeks is going to continue. And they have to win these last two games. Can't overlook them, or they can definitely still miss the college football playoff. Another loss should, end their chances, even though you know how some of the networks are saying, like, oh, a 3-loss SEC team could still get in. I'm like, no, I don't agree. I think that's insane. If Bama loses, they're done, but they definitely are going to be heavy favorites in their next two games, and hopefully they will be able to take care of business. But definitely excited about the show tonight and can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. Like Jackson said, doesn't matter if you're a Bama fan, doesn't matter if you're a Tennessee fan, a Big Ten team fan, doesn't matter who you like, who you root for. We want to hear your takes on Alabama football or, even college football in general, but definitely main focus with Alabama. I definitely appreciate everybody for being here tonight. So far, we got Austin definitely saying roll Tide. Appreciate it, Austin. But yeah, definitely excited to talk about some Bama football tonight.
For sure. And we've got some exciting news for the next edition of Crimson Tide Live and who's going to be on there Monday night. Well, Monday afternoon. Johnny Burtz and I will be having Stephen M. Smith, the editor of Touchdown Alabama, and Kyle Loomis from E2C Network for Iron Bowl week, or Hate Week, as we like to call it right here. So it's going to be a fun one. So you're going to be seen. So sit back, relax. And this is why you should like, comment, subscribe, click on the notification bell so you don't miss amazing shows like this on Alabama The Voice College Football. And Jeffrey, Black Friday's coming up. Where are you getting exactly? Do you know what you're shopping for?
Definitely, got a couple things in mind possibly, and I know what you're about to talk about, that Mark Rogers' world famous book going around Amazon and other places on the internet. You are not going to want to miss Mark Rogers' book. That definitely will be on my list of things right there, because let's be real. Mark Rogers knows college football, and he knows 1990s college football very well. He was alive and well for that era of college football. Me and Jackson weren't. We were not a part of the 90s. Jackson maybe the tail end.
I'm a 90s baby.
Yeah, you don't remember that much about 90s football, but you do your history. But Mark Rogers, he was, paying attention to football back then. He knows his stuff. So if you want to hear about the 1990s college football and championships and stuff like that, this is the book for you. Absolutely.
Agreed. You'll definitely be learning about what happened in the 90s, how the decade changed the sport, why the championship results should be questioned, how to critically think through the scenarios, and you get to appreciate the accomplishments of teams that were not recognized as champions. This book provides an in-depth analysis of the changes, controversies, and outcomes that defined a decade of college football. Grab your copy now.
Austin saying that I got the conflicting colors again, Alabama and Tennessee. I guess this shirt looks like Tennessee. I can guarantee that it's not a Tennessee shirt. But the Alabama hat's all that matters. The Alabama hat is all that matters.
Oh man. Oh man, Austin's asking us what percentage we have on Oklahoma keeping the game close. Hmm.
I would say 30%. I mean, I don't think it's that great of a
25.
chance. It's more if Alabama struggles, because of effort. I think it's more of an effort issue. And especially when you look at a game like Vanderbilt, Alabama's effort in that game was not good. But then you look at the LSU game and you look at the Missouri game and even the first half against Georgia, that was unbelievable. Alabama can play spectacular football, but it's not consistent. So it's whether Alabama plays hard or not. And for me, also Oklahoma. I mean, have they thrown in the towel? I mean, in their
Ooh.
record 5-5. If I
Yeah, and their bowl streak dates back to 1999. I mean,
so they have
it's the
Alabama. And who's
same
their
age
other
as
opponent?
SpongeBob. That's the funny part.
Yeah, Oklahoma streak's the same as SpongeBob's start with season 1 back in '99. Back when Nickelodeon was good, mind you. But that's a
This is
whole
the
other
only
conversation.
Alabama college show where you're going to hear SpongeBob references.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, Nickelodeon was good back then, man. So many great shows. Cartoons are nowhere near as good anymore. But who else does Oklahoma have besides Alabama to finish their season? I can't remember.
LSU.
Oh God. Well, I mean they could win. I guess. I mean it depends if LSU's thrown in the towel. Thing
LSU.
is that if Oklahoma has it thrown in the towel and they still care about their season, plus the chance to play spoiler, right? I mean to knock Alabama, to be the ones that knocks Alabama out of the playoff. You got to think too when Alabama played LSU. LSU's ranked. LSU, it's a big time rivalry game. The last time Bama went to Baton Rouge, they lost. The thing with Oklahoma, there's no hate here, right? Like Alabama, Oklahoma don't play each other. This is a new conference opponent. It's not like an Alabama LSU where you've got those deep rooted rivalries there, dating back decades in the past. And so you just don't really. This is just a weird game. Oklahoma's not very good. But bad teams can play good sometimes, especially if a team like Alabama overlooks them. Honestly, again, it just depends on whether Alabama shows up and plays hard. If they do that, they're going to win. To me, it doesn't even matter how Oklahoma plays. How Oklahoma plays matters too. It does matter. But I think how Alabama plays is going to be the determining factor in whether they win or lose. They just have to play hard. Give the LSU effort. Give the Missouri effort. You do that, you're going to be fine. Even on the road, even in a tough environment, they'll be fine if they do that. It is a night game, though, and it is a week before Auburn. So, I mean, you never know. You can't overlook Oklahoma, but I've seen the Sooners a lot this year. They're not good. They're not a very good football team. So, Bama has to play hard.
They're just a nightmare, unfortunately, for them.
Mm.
And, I know I talked with John Hoover and Parker Thune on Monday afternoon where me and Johnny talked with the guys about the series history of that game. And it's a pretty fascinating one because, I mean, the first matchup was in the 1963 Orange Bowl where President John F. Kennedy witnessed a beatdown in person. So it was just ugly for the Sooners. But then in 1970, Alabama and Oklahoma had a tight game. It was 17-17, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in the 1970 Blue Bonnet Bowl. And that was where Alabama wore those white helmets in that game. That was one of the 3 games where they wore the white helmets for that season. I want to see a white helmet game once a season, but that's another topic for another day. 2002, 2003, Oklahoma beat us in 02 and won a tight one in 03 in Sheila.
Bama was not good back then.
We sucked. And
yeah, I don't care. Sorry, Oklahoma, but that's not an accomplishment, man. Sorry.
And of course, there's the 2014 Sugar Bowl where we Eeyore was happier than us. Because we were so depressed from that kick six. I mean,
man, I still am depressed about the kick six. A decade later. I mean, come on, it was terrible.
True. And of course, there's the Orange Bowl from 2018. We beat down Kyler Murray and the Sooners.
Oh gosh, it was ugly. I will say though, even though Auburn had that kick six, I think that I think Auburn fans would rather them have lost that game and still be good today versus, oh, you won that game, you haven't been good since. So I mean, Auburn like it's been ugly for you the last decade, especially the last 5 years. It's been terrible.
Yuck. It's been terrible for the Tigers, but oh well for them.
I mean, that's why I like hate week, right? Like we're in hate week. You're supposed to loathe
Mhm.
your rival. I'm more annoyed by Auburn than anything else. Like I mean, at this point, I don't even hate them. I just am annoyed by them, right? Because it's like you got talent, you got fans, you got history, but you stink, and you keep firing coaches, and you're getting worse. Like you're not getting any better. So yeah, Auburn, yeah, they're just a mess. I mean, honestly, I prefer them to be good. I don't want them beating Alabama, but I mean, I prefer that, them to be a good team, that's competitive. The current state of Auburn football is very ugly. I mean, like, even though Auburn's been rough the past few years, I will say that I did enjoy the 2 Alabama games in Jordan-Hare, the last 2 games that were very close. The Bama won both of them at the end. Now, that did concern me with Alabama. I'm like, well, Alabama's not as good if they're going to be hanging with Auburn. But you never know with rivalry games. You never know. It can get weird. But, I mean, the last 2 games in Jordan-Hare have been entertaining. But most of the recent Bama games against Auburn at home have been ugly. And, obviously, I prefer Alabama to just blow the doors off them this season. Auburn doesn't need to give Bama a scare. Like, they're not good enough to really do that. But, we'll see. I mean, all I know is if Hugh Freeze gets fired, do not make a push for, still Kurt Signetti. Because I'm still seeing people say this, which is hilarious. He got that contract extension now for $8 million a year. People are saying, well, he could still go to Auburn. He could still go to Florida. They could outbid him. I'm like, come on, just stop. Please just stop. Auburn, no.
I promise you, nobody's going to take Kurt Signetti.
I'm done with the talk, man. He's not going anywhere. He's staying in Indiana.
That's why you don't hear me saying squat.
Steve said I was waiting for a Signetti reference, and Jeffrey delivered as expected. Peace out, fellas. All right, Steve. Appreciate it. Oh, man. Got to give the people what they want, right?
Yep. There you go.
Boy.
There
Austin asks, which Oklahoma QB you guys think would give Alabama nightmares? None. Honestly, none. I mean, Jackson Arnold has not been very good this season. And the other guy, what was his name again? Hawkins? Was that his last? I can't remember his last name.
Yep.
But he wasn't that good either. Do you remember that game? What game was it? It was Oklahoma. Oh man, it was earlier this season.
Auburn.
I can't remember who they were playing, but remember when he flipped in the end zone? He did like a flip in the air. What game was that? They were at home. I can't remember.
Was it? Was it Oklahoma Temple?
No, it was the game Jackson Arnold got benched. It was early in the season.
Oh man. Oh, that was against Tennessee, I think.
Tennessee. Yep, that's it. That was the game. It was Tennessee. I couldn't think. It was the Tennessee game, man, where he flipped in the air. Like, he was diving for the end zone. I mean, I will say that Hawkins' ability to run, I guess, makes him more dynamic. But, I mean, Jackson Arnold just doesn't do much for me. I mean, he's not that great. I will say, though, Texas, people kept saying when Texas and Oklahoma joined the SEC that, they were going to suck, basically. Well, the thing is that, like, Texas come in and they've done good. Oklahoma's not done well, which they were the team that more people expected to not do well. I mean, if Texas had to join the SEC 5 or 6 years ago, then they had a lot of problems. But, I mean, Texas has gotten better since then, like the Tom Herman era, that kind of stuff. They had Charlie Strong back then, like those guys. They didn't do that good back then. So if they had to come into the SEC back then, they wouldn't have been good. But now with Sark, they're better, all that kind of stuff. But Oklahoma definitely disappointing. Do you see them getting better in the future, next few years? Like whether they fire Venables, get someone else, or whether Venables can turn it around? Like, I don't know. I mean, the issue is I don't think they have the the money and like the resources these other teams do. I don't know if they have it. That's why Lincoln Riley left. So do you think they're going to just be mediocre in the next few years? Do you think they can get better?
I think they can do a lot better than where they're at right now. I don't think they're going to be the Nebraska of the SEC. I
So you
don't.
think they could be like Penn State maybe, where they're not the
Mhm.
best team in the SEC, but they can be like 9-3, 10-2 every year.
Yup.
Just can't beat the big teams, but they'll beat up on most other teams if they can get it turned around. I mean, right now they're not
Oh,
good.
yeah. I mean, I think we can see Texas, Oklahoma in the future get an SEC title definitely before Arkansas, Missouri, South Carolina, and Texas A&M.
Yeah,
So
sounds about right. Sports
yeah.
Talk was all said. I said 31-15 Alabama. I think Alabama defense wins today. I mean, I just think more so like Oklahoma's offense isn't that good. I mean, it's not the worst offense in the world. I mean, it has shown some signs of life, but most of the teams that they played decent against on offense were against teams that weren't great. So, I mean, the thing is that I'm not really worried about Oklahoma. I'm more worried about Alabama. That's just my opinion. I'm more worried about whether Alabama goes out there and plays a tough game. You know, like go out there and they play hard, a gritty. You know, like what we're gonna showcase how much better than you we are, Oklahoma. That's what I want to see from Alabama. I mean, the thing is when Alabama's played well this season, they are clearly a top 10 team. But the problem is that they just don't consistently play well. This season has been inconsistent. So that's the only thing that worries me. If we get a poor Alabama performance, then, you know, they could lose. I mean, they actually could lose if they play bad. If they play really bad, they could lose. It's like a 10% chance, but it's still a chance. Most likely, if they play bad, they'll squeak out a win. They'll win like 28-20 or something if they play poor. Most likely. There's still a slim chance they lose. But as long as they play well, they should blow them off the field. I mean, you think LSU's better than Oklahoma, right? You think they're a better team, right?
I think they are, but I feel like they've just collapsed.
Well, they've
LSU,
collapsed. Yeah. But I mean,
yeah.
like at the time Alabama played them, LSU still had life. They still seemed like they were trying. And they have more talent than Oklahoma. So like when Alabama beat them down, I mean that shows what Bama can do. And they can do that to Oklahoma. But we just don't know if they're going to play as hard against Oklahoma as they did against LSU. So that's something that Kalen DeBoer is going to have to make sure they do. Godfather of the SEC says, hello, appreciate you for stopping by. Nice to see you. And he said, I said 38-17 last night. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I don't even remember what I said with Will the other night. Do you remember? I don't even remember. Well, I had Alabama winning. I know that. I had them winning. I can't remember. I don't remember the score. I said something like 38-14 or 38-17. About like what the Godfather said. It was about the same. I had them winning by a decent amount. I mean, they should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, we can make a. I think we'll get an offer that we can't refuse. Oh man,
I love that.
yeah.
No, people aren't going to get that movie reference, but it's good. It's good. So
I think
good.
that was for the Godfather of the SEC.
Yep.
Don't
I'm sure there's other people watching like, what? What?
Don't ask me about my business, Kay.
Oh man. Yeah, like you said, only Bama show you're gonna get Nickelodeon takes, Godfather takes. I mean, it goes on and on.
Yeah, and we use those analogies for Alabama football.
Mm-hmm. So, what would you give Kalen DeBoer this season as a grade so far, as a coaching grade? Like A to F. What would you give Kalen DeBoer?
I'd give him an A- right now.
I would. It's flirting with B+ or A-. It's either or. Like either way you go, it's on the edge. He's done good. I mean, you're following the greatest coach of all time. And Bama did lose players. They lost some transfers. They lost some commits. I mean, so kind of tough, and Oklahoma, Texas joining the SEC. The SEC is very bloated. So many good teams, right? So it wasn't going to be easy. They had some tough games on the schedule. I don't think they've done bad. If they finish up the season with 2 wins, then yeah, I A- for sure. Absolutely. I think that he's done good overall. Still can't believe a couple weeks ago that some people were saying, "Oh, he needs to be fired." I'm like, come on.
Oh my God. Like,
Remember that?
Oh man, like I heard it all when I was going over to get my hair cut at the salon several weeks ago.
Mhm.
And this was like day after Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. All I heard was, and it was obviously from the ladies that didn't watch, that they're not like spending all their time watching all of college football. They're not staying up till 2
Even
a.m.
still, man, they like, come on. Like, it don't matter if you watch one game a year. First year head coach, following the greatest coach of all time. Everybody knows who Nick Saban was.
And
Okay, he's gone.
And some of the dudes were saying it. It was like
2 losses, man. I can understand it go 4-8. I get it.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of off-field stuff, like the players doing the mess around on Zoom meetings, showing their laying down unders, or playing with a secretary's butt or whatever without her consent. That's just a no-no.
Godfather says only had coach to win 8 games his first year as Coach Perkins in '83. And I will say, I mean, that's impressive, but he is following the greatest coach of all time, and they still had a very good team. Like, Nick Saban was not taking over a good team. Overall, like, the end of the Shula era wasn't great. So, I mean, overall, DeBoer's still done really well this season. I have no qualms with it overall, outside of a couple of, mismanaged moments in games and just some rough stuff. But overall, it's been good. But yeah, I mean, Nick Saban, like, there's like, he didn't win 8 games in his first year, but the team before wasn't good. So Saban had to turn it around. But I definitely still think it's very impressive. But yeah, I think people saying that DeBoer should have been fired is just way too premature. It's absolutely ridiculous to even say that. I mean, the ultimate, hilarity would be, like Kurt Signetti got a contract extension. He loses to Ohio State. Oh, now he should be fired.
Oh,
if any person says that, I swear there's no way Indiana fans are ever going to be at that point, right? Like, there's no way. Like, they're not among the elite. They're the worst power program. If they lose, even if they get destroyed, which I don't think so, but okay, they're not going to do that. But maybe you'll have some troll that'll be like, "Oh, Indiana should fire him so we can get him." You'll have some troll do that still. People are crazy with the whole some firing thing.
I mean, some crazy dude that we know that's fighting 12-year-olds on Discord might call for Kurt Signetti to get fired, but that's it, really.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, some people are just really, really crazy with these coaching, searches, man, and hirings and firing. It's like, it's just unhinged, man. I mean, like, I'm still seeing West Virginia fans say we can get Kurt Signetti. I'm like, what? Like, I'm seeing this, Jackson. I'm like, I can't even read social media right now. I can't. It's gone off the ledge, off the deep end. I mean, we're in the Marianas Trench right now of takes. We're in the literal pit. It's not coming back. It's getting worse, Jackson. I thought Ryan Day should be fired after going 11-1 and losing to Michigan and making the playoff was bad. But now we're having people say, "Oh, well, we're gonna get Kurt Signetti after he loses to Ohio State. We're gonna get him. No, you're not. You're not gonna get him.
Your chance to get him was when he was at James Madison.
Yes. It was. It really was. I mean, it's messed up, man. It's like, I keep saying to people, if you wanted him, you could have had him when he was at James Madison. Make him an offer then. But now he's at the big time. Indiana is in the Big Ten. They got the Big Ten money. They have resources. They're funding the program, kind of like Kansas has done with Lance Leipold. It's the same thing. So that's like, for me, once that coach gets that big extension, you're not going to keep him. Now, I will say, Kalen DeBoer, and you know this well as I do, he did get an offer at Washington. Mm-hmm. He did. I will say that. For like $8-9 million, and then Bama ended up paying him $10.
Yeah.
But he was probably looking at it that I'm not going to have nowhere near as good of a team next year at Washington. I got to strike while the iron's hot and take this job. And see, it's also Alabama. You take like Kurt Signetti or Lance Leipold and just say the Auburn job opens or the Florida job opens. Do you really want to go there? Like,
No.
Kalen DeBoer's taking Alabama, who's a top, 2 or 3 program all the time, if not the best. Some would say Ohio State, some, whatever. Bama's right there, though, right? And you're following up Nick Saban. Florida and Auburn are not that desirable of jobs right now. Yeah, they got money to blow, but they're not that desirable of programs. They're not even good right now. So that's the problem. Like Lance Leipold, Chris Kleiman, Kurt Signetti. No, why? Why would you go to a program like Florida or Auburn? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And Florida State, people are saying Florida State. Why would you want to go to the ACC? I mean, that's a downgrade. You want to be in the Big Ten or the SEC. That's where the money is. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, honestly, all this realignment and all this NIL and TV deals and stuff, it's helped Indiana. It has.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think Indiana would be where they're at right now without realignment. I still hate realignment. I wish they'd have never done realignment. I wish the conference the way they were before, but if the conferences were the way that they still were before, I don't think Indiana would be doing anything. I don't. I honestly don't. I think all this TV money and realignment's helped Vanderbilt. It's helped Indiana. It's given them money that they can use, and they're actually putting towards football. So that's my opinion. So we got Godfather saying, gosh, I hope Indiana beats Ohio State. Me too. I think most of the nation does. The only people that don't are SEC fans of teams that they want their team in, like A&M and stuff like that, over Indiana, Georgia. They're mad at IU. But most people do want Indiana to win. And obviously Ohio State fans don't want Indiana to win. But other than that, everybody does. And yeah, you got a contract extension. Godfather last week. It was $8 million a year with incentives till 2032. I don't think he's going anywhere. He literally said on TV, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving Indiana. And I know that people can backtrack on their word, but to me, he's made it very, very apparent that he's not going anywhere. So,
yeah,
but we're still going to say it.
Yeah, he knows that he's not going to get thrown out on a limb if he has a 10-win season at Indiana. That's not going to happen. So he's going to have a statue built for him. And as you said, Jeffrey, without conference realignment, Indiana would be celebrating a sits and sits season every year.
Mm-hmm. So I think so. I mean, I honestly do. I could be completely wrong in my analysis, but I do think that realignment has helped teams like Indiana. I do. Because the amount of money that's in the Big Ten and the SEC right now with all this TV money and all the stuff going on with boosters and the way NIL is working, the ACC and the Big 12 just have so much less money. They have a fraction of the money. Yeah, that's why a move like Jeff Brom from Purdue to Louisville is starting to make less sense. You know what I'm saying? Like when he made the move, Louisville is a better football program than Purdue. But Purdue's got more money than Louisville. So the only thing is it is easier to win at Louisville. I will say that. It is way easier to win at Louisville. Like Louisville should have beat Stanford. That's the type of teams Louisville's playing. Whereas Purdue, you're going to be playing Penn State, USC. You know what I'm saying? So I get Brom's move. But like I said, the money is in the Big Ten. It's in the SEC. I don't like it, but I didn't make the rules. I didn't do this. Like I said, I would completely prefer it to be the way it was in the 80s and 90s. The Big 8, the Southwest Conference, the Big East, whatever. I'd love that better. Pac-12 is still in existence, or the Pac-10, but it isn't. So you're either in the haves or you're in the have-nots. And if you're in the Big 10 and the SEC, you're among the haves. If you're in the Big 12 and the ACC, you're among the have-nots, in my opinion. I just don't think that those programs can even stack up on a financial level. And money's driving everything. I mean, you saw Tommy Tuberville's statement, right, about Indiana bought a football team, which I still think is insane. Yeah, Indiana bought a football team, but they've got a fifth of the money Ohio State has. Okay, they got a fifth of the money. Like, if you're going to be going off at anybody, go off at Ohio State. Go off on, Auburn or whatever. Like, they got more money than Indiana, and they still stink. So, I mean, it's funny. It really is.
Oh.
Troy,
I
that
know
is just so random, man. That is
yeah,
just so random.
he's messing with you there, man.
I know he is. Everybody is. It's all good. It's all good.
Alright.
Oklahoma State, of all the programs, Oklahoma State, cursing that he's not going to the Big 12 after he walks on water, of course. The funny thing I think about Cignetti is that nobody knew who the heck he was before this year. Like, outside of
Yeah.
diehard college ball fans that knew he was in the Sun Belt, like, most people did not know who he was. I mean, I knew who he was, but, like, now everybody knows who he is. It's just, it's hilarious.
Yep, that's the beauty of winning. Everybody knows who you are when you're winning.
Mm.
But we're looking at who we could be playing in the playoff rankings. We could be having Notre Dame.
Would you rather Alabama face Indiana or Notre Dame?
That's a good question. Oh my God, I'm so torn.
Honestly, I'd rather face Notre Dame. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, the Alabama-Indiana crossover would be epic, but I kind of rather them face Notre Dame. You know, I mean, in a way, okay. If Indiana beats Ohio State, then I hope Indiana plays Alabama. But if they don't, then no, I don't, because Indiana is probably not. I mean, thing is, Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. So if they play bad, Indiana could beat Alabama, but most likely in a playoff scenario, I think Alabama would more than likely handle Indiana. Not destroy them, but, win 34-17 or 34-20. So I kind of prefer, like, Indiana to play somebody that they more than likely could beat, like a Miami if they make the playoffs, like something like that.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'd rather face Notre Dame.
Miami. It would be hell for Miami.
I think Indiana would win. I think they could beat Miami. I think when BYU was in there, they could beat BYU.
They couldn't, we know Miami, if they played Indiana afterwards, they can't hope for the 80s to save them. It's like, we were great in the 80s. Yeah, we don't care.
It's the same thing as Indiana basketball or Nebraska football. It's hard to hang on your laurels. I mean, like, until Indiana basketball does anything in the tournament in the modern era, nobody's going to care what they did 30 years ago. It doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't. Like, Indiana is a blue blood basketball program historically, but in the present, they're terrible. They're getting better, but I think it's more because of NIL than it is Mike Woodson. Honestly, I do.
But to answer your question, I would go. I think I would. You know what? I'm gonna have to go Alabama Notre Dame.
Yep.
Because I feel like it'd be better than Alabama Indiana.
The Indiana game would be epic. Like, part of me wants it hard. I do want it. I want it badly, but only if Indiana it can be competitive, right? Like if they don't beat Alabama, that's fine. Like, obviously, I'm an Alabama fan. I mean, I would be very happy with an Alabama win, but Indiana is a unique thing for me. I like IU because they're bad, and they're finally having a good year. They've been my feel bad team for almost a decade. They're finally having a good year. I'm happy for them. And I don't want them to get smoked. I don't want them to get smoked. And I don't think they would, but the thing is, football is a weird thing, Jackson. It's one game. Like, honestly, again, you take Ohio State's close game against Nebraska. Most times Ohio State would play Nebraska this year, they blow them out.
Oh, yeah.
They just didn't that day. Just like Indiana blew Nebraska out. I don't think Indiana would blow Nebraska out every single time. I don't think that would happen. But see, it's one game. Alabama could play Indiana and blow the doors off of them, win 40-10. And if that happened, then what would the narrative be? Oh, well, Indiana sucked. Indiana was no good. But the thing is, if you replayed that game, it could be a 28-27 thriller that could go either way, whether IU would win or Alabama would win. See, the difference with Alabama Notre Dame versus Alabama Indiana is that if Notre Dame loses, the narrative is just going to be that, oh, well, Notre Dame just can't win. They just can't win that big game. With Indiana, the narrative is going to be, oh, Indiana was a fluke. They were no good. That's why when TCU beat Michigan that year in the playoffs, that's where everybody took them seriously. If TCU had a loss to Michigan in that first round game, or the semifinals of the playoff, then, or especially got blown out, people would have said, oh, they're no good. Right? Oh, they were a fluke. They didn't deserve to be in there. But TCU won. It made them look good. Then they got absolutely annihilated by Georgia. But do you honestly think if they replayed that game against Georgia out of 10 times that all those would be that bad of a blowout? I don't think so. I don't. That's the issue with football. You get one game, and everybody takes that one game and blows it out of proportion, good or bad. It's the way it works.
Transitive property.
Alabama would beat Vanderbilt this season every single other time that they would play out of 10. I've seen enough of Vanderbilt football that if Alabama played them 10 times in a row, since they already played the one where they lost, they played them 9 other times, I think Bama would win every single one of those games.
Yeah.
I think they would. I think Texas in most scenarios would beat Vanderbilt by more than 3. But they didn't. Vandy's a good team. They're better than usual, but they're still not great. Not a great team. So it's just the way that it works, unfortunately. It is. I mean, honestly, I think if Indiana played Michigan again, they could beat them by more. I do. I think Indiana kind of fell apart in that second half. I do. I think they kind of choked a little bit. I think they kind of were like, oh, gosh, Michigan actually is pretty good. This is a team we haven't, beaten in first. So, I don't know. Football is a weird thing. It's you don't get, like you said, the NBA playoffs with 7 games. You just don't get that.
No. And, there's always like some people that go, oh, well, because of this game, that team is automatically better, period. No. Doesn't
like I said, I've done the transitive property with you, Jackson, earlier this year on one of these shows. And Georgia State in that scenario would be better than Bama and Georgia. Doesn't work that way. Georgia State beat Vanderbilt. Georgia State is bad. Yeah. So you can't do that.
No, they're not even.
You cannot do the transitive property.
No. It's like
people actually use this as an argument. Like I've even seen media people use it as an argument. I'm like, how are you using the transitive property? Like how can you actually, have a serious conversation where you're analyzing something and use the transitive property? It's been debunked a million times. Someone had a scenario one time where an FCS team would be better than the team that won it all. That's happened before because of the transit. This team beat this team that beat this team. Oh, well, South Dakota State's better than Georgia. Okay, no. It's not how it works. That's just a random example. But I do remember one year where you could go all the way down to the FCS for a team that beat that team that beat that team. And it's crazy.
Oh, yeah. It had been 40 years, yeah, and that was also, one of the last times we wore white helmets.
Why did they get rid of the white helmets? Do you have any idea? They just got out of style or what?
I guess they got out of style at that time, but we started wearing the iconic red helmets in the 1960 Bluebonnet Bowl against Texas.
Mm-hmm. It was the same thing with Indiana. Back in the 1960s, they had a bison. I don't know if you knew that or not. They actually had a live bison on the field, kind of like Colorado does, and that was their mascot. But Indiana got rid of it, and they've been mascotless since the 70s. They don't have a mascot. Indiana's 0 mascot. So it's funny. I don't know why. Bring the bison back. It's cool. Right. I know that Colorado's got a bison. I don't care. Bring it back, just have something. I mean, Alabama's the Crimson Tide, but our mascot's an elephant. What does an elephant have to do with Crimson Tide? It doesn't. Okay, it has nothing to do with it. But we have an elephant, so bring the bison back for the Hoosiers. Bring it back.
It would be pretty cool if we could do the white helmets at least once a season on the road or at home. Doesn't really matter to me.
Out of all the things that Alabama's had in the past, Jackson, like the white helmets or playing Georgia Tech, stuff like that, what out of all those things, and there probably you have a few more that you can list. What's the thing you want back the most?
For right now, we'll just go baby steps and go with the white helmets.
Okay. Go with Georgia Tech later.
Yeah, for right now, we'll figure out something with Georgia Tech. We got to make them good in the ACC.
They're getting there. Did they win tonight?
Oh, we're going to find out and see. Oh, I like this. White and black helmets. I like it very much.
You can do that.
And oh yeah. Let's look. Oh, Georgia Tech's winning 23-14. Okay, North Carolina State just scored a touchdown, and it's likely going to be an extra point. Georgia Tech's leading by a couple points against North Carolina State on
I
Thursday.
picked Georgia Tech, so I'm kind of hoping they win. So we'll see. Yeah, I agree with Troy though. I'm not watching the game currently, but I will say that
is Myles Garrett taking the helmet out, bashing someone on the head again?
Oh man, I remember that. That's insane. That's pure rage right there. But I will say that Troy is right about
Bull. Even Raging Bulls is like, that's too much even for me.
Yeah, you can't do that. I do agree with Troy though about the snow being, it is a factor, right? Like in the college football playoff, if teams from the South, like Bama, have to go up north, that is a factor. And I did see that. I think in Ohio, I might have saw on Twitter earlier or X that it's snowing in Ohio, so it could be snowing for the Indiana Ohio State game. I don't know if it will be or not. If it is, though, I don't know if that helps or hurts IU. I don't know, honestly.
Please tell me they're going to do Please tell me they're going to do a snow angel touchdown celebration when they score, right?
Hopefully somebody does.
That'd be cool. Yeah, because I remember watching the NFL game in 2008 and somebody did a touchdown celebration. It was like, oh, I'm going to make a snow angel.
Now, that guy didn't get it wasn't no unsportsmanlike or nothing or for celebrating, was there?
No. I mean, it's like I always hear people go, you gotta have class, you gotta have class. Like, okay, you wouldn't be saying that if you were winning.
Yeah, if you were the one running out there and getting the big plays and you got thousands of screaming fans cheering down, I don't think you'd be doing that either. I mean, I remember Justin Fields in the rain, that game where he was sliding across the field. Yeah. I remember that. I don't know if you remember that or not, but that was funny.
Loved it.
You gotta have fun, man. You gotta have fun.
True. Agreed. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens against Oklahoma in Norman, Oklahoma. And tell you the truth, I'm excited about this being the first conference game in the series history.
Yeah, I mean, you got to start, the bad blood, right, of conference rivals with something, right, like this game. That's why I'm saying it's an interesting game because, I mean, the Alabama LSUs, Alabama Auburn, Alabama Tennessee, you've got history. You've got that storied history among these programs. The Alabama Oklahoma, you got a few games in the past, but there's not a lot of bad blood. It's just a few games that you happen to be, bowl games or whatever. So it's going to be interesting. Definitely, I think Oklahoma's going to want to, start out the series in the SEC strong, but I don't know. I just feel like Oklahoma, again, as a team overall, just isn't that good. I mean, as I said earlier, there's not a very good team. Both sides of the ball. I mean, Brent Venables' calling card's defense, and Oklahoma's defense is not the best. It's okay. And their offense is just such a downgrade from the, Bob Stoops, Lincoln Riley stuff. So they're just not a very entertaining team to watch. I mean, at least like Iowa. Yeah, like when Iowa, the past decade, their offense is just worse than paint drying. At least their defense made up for it with impressive football. Like Oklahoma just isn't doing that good on either side of the ball. You know what I'm saying? Like on both sides of the ball, they're just okay. So
yeah.
I don't know.
And
okay, so Troy's saying it's supposed to be in the 40s and 50s for that game. I'm assuming he's talking about Ohio State, Indiana. So, okay, that'll be good if it's that.
Oh, yeah. But we got the call-in link in the chat for those who want to call in and discuss their take on the Alabama Crimson Tide. You're more than welcome to come on in.
We got Austin too saying Alabama, Ohio State in the first round snow. Count me in. Oh, yeah, of course. Like, of course, people want to see Alabama in the snow. It's like Ohio State. They're used to it, right? They've done it before. I'll still never forget though. Do you remember Ohio State when they played Northwestern that year? It was some bad weather, and they were blaming the weather when they barely won. And then when they lost to Michigan, they blamed the weather. That's what cracks me up. I'm like, Ohio State, you're supposed to be used to this. You're supposed to be used to the weather. Imagine the ultimate calling card, right? The ultimate thing. If you got Alabama going to Ohio State in the snow, Alabama wins, and then Ohio State blames the snow. That would just be hilarious, man. I mean, the thing is that if you're a team that's used to playing in snow, you've done it before, I just don't think you can blame it. I don't think you blame the weather. I get that one season with Ohio State because passing was their main calling card. I get it. You know, they weren't a big running team. Stroud was throwing all over the place. I get that, but at the same time, it is kind of a cop-out to say, the weather is why we lost when you're supposed to be used to it. You know, I don't know. It's just funny.
That's true. It would be cool seeing Alabama Ohio State snow game. That'd be cool.
Honestly, I don't think Alabama would do very well in the snow. I mean, most likely Ohio State would probably win, but it would be hilarious if Ohio State did lose and then they blamed the weather. Troy says the win in that Northwestern game blew roofs off and uprooted trees. I live in Chicago, and that was some yeah. I mean, I agree. The weather was not good. I just thought it was funny though, because Northwestern, you know, had to deal with the weather too. And they hung with them. It was a close game, but still, I get it. That's crazy though. I hate that roofs got blown off. That's tough. I hate that. I hate when any destruction happens to houses. So glad everybody on the Ohio State Northwestern teams were okay, but that's crazy. I definitely hope you were okay as well, Troy, when all that was going on. Because yeah, I mean, wind. I mean, hurricanes down the south. We got hurricanes, so we deal with that all the time. It's terrible. Godfather says it's supposed to be 68. Yeah, that's perfect weather right there. Perfect.
Yeah. It's humongously perfect. I mean, we got to have some good weather.
Do you think that if Alabama did have to go up north and play in a snow game that they would have any chance? Or do you think it'd be like the NFL? Like the Miami Dolphins going up north and just not having a chance?
I think Alabama would do fine depending on who we've got. Because if we've got someone that's born and raised in the Midwest, plenty of those guys, I think we would be okay.
Well, the thing is that a lot of the players that Bama does get are from Florida or Texas, California. That's kind of the issue.
Yeah.
It's kind of the issue. I mean, they get some guys from the north, but I mean, that's what I've been saying with, you know, like Florida programs, Florida, Miami, Florida State, they don't keep their in-state guys that much anymore. I mean, they get some players, but back when Miami was loaded, they used to keep all those guys in state. Now Georgia, Bama, LSU gets a lot of those players. Troy says they do fine. We make more of a big deal about weather than the players. Yeah, well, I mean, it gets cold in Alabama. It can get cold. I mean, it doesn't snow too much, but it can snow. I mean, I'm sure it snowed where you're at, Jackson, before.
And
even where I am, it snowed. Doesn't snow often, but it does snow. I mean, like it could snow in North Carolina. It could snow in Alabama. Not often, but it can. So, I mean, I agree. I do think people do sometimes make a bigger deal out of it than it is. It's different if it's like a foot of snow. I mean, if it's just like unplayable, conditions, it's insane. I've seen NFL games like where like the snow drifts on the sidelines are nuts. But I mean, if it's just like a dusting or just like an inch, it's not that bad.
Yeah. And Troy V says they do fine. We make more of a deal about the weather than the players.
Well, I mean, the reason that we probably do is because, I mean, we're sitting there watching it on TV, right? I mean, we're in the comfort of our home, right? You got the same thing with the guys in the booth. I mean, they got it made, but like, just looking at it, it's like, oh, it's terrible. But I mean, a lot of times it's not that bad. I mean, if it's a light snow, it's the same thing as light rain. It's not bad. It's different. Do you remember that game last year, Washington, Oregon State, where Penix and the Washington offense were really struggling in the rain?
Oh, yeah.
because the rain was abysmal. Like, it's different if it's lightly raining or lightly snowing, but if it's just coming down, I mean, that game was terrible, man. Washington almost lost, and if they had a loss, it probably ended their playoff chances. But yeah, I mean that game, the rain was unbelievably poor. It was terrible. It was pouring down, and Washington's offense was a passing attack, so they couldn't pass the ball very well. Guys were dropping balls, there were fumbles everywhere. Yeah, so I mean, it depends on the severity. Rain and snow is fine if it's just not coming down like strong.
Yeah. But we'll wait and see what happens with the. Oh, Dan Mullen was crying tonight because the heaters weren't working at the Georgia Tech game in the booth.
Oh,
I thought he'd be saying that the crapper was full.
I mean, the thing is people do laugh, because a lot of people, in the media industry have it made. I mean, have you seen? I don't know if you've seen it before, Jackson, but I've seen like before NBA games or like before NBA halftime shows, they'll show the crew, right? They're getting prepared for the halftime show, and like if it's a female, like they're doing her makeup on set, getting prim and proper and all that. And then the guys, like, they're making sure like everything's just good to go, right? Like, I mean, the thing is, man, like I get it's a presentation, right? It's a presentation. You gotta look your best. Like, I mean, we don't just come on here looking like we just got out of bed in the morning, but at the same time, like, we got nobody pampering us, but like those people in the media,
we'll get there.
Yeah, but you don't want to get spoiled, though, is my point.
No.
If we did, right? Like, if we did, you don't want to get spoiled. Because once you do that, I mean, you don't become a likable person, right? Like, a lot of people just don't like people that are spoiled and pampered. Not trashing Dan Mullen and all, but I mean, a lot of people are that way. Like, you get that life, or you get the taste of that life, and like, nah, I gotta have it made the shade, man. That's crazy, though. That's crazy.
Here's a piece of chocolate. Dope. No chocolate. Dope. No chocolate.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. It's like hearing oh, man. What was it on the Powerpuff Girls? Oh, yeah. The princess where she's like, my daddy's going to give me this. My daddy's going to give me that. Oh, my God.
Oh, if you want to watch, spoiled people, the best thing you can do is watch a good cartoon from the past. There's always one character in a classic show that's just spoiled beyond belief. I mean, the thing is, like, why would you even want to be spoiled? Because the thing is, like, it makes you unlikable, and you're never happy, right? Yeah. Like that's a big problem, right? So, like, when you're spoiled and you want everything and you can't get everything, then you're never happy. I mean, it's different if you have nothing. Like, when you have nothing, like, what's the old saying? Have nothing, be happy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You've heard that before. Like, you don't want to have nothing. I mean, no one should be happy if you have nothing. But as long as you have the important things, family, friends, a roof over your head, food, that should be good enough. Like when you start expecting more and more and you're never satisfied, that's when it's a problem. Right? I mean, so like that you don't want to be the spoiled person.
And we got an update about the North Carolina State Georgia Tech game. I spoke too soon because they broke a touchdown run, got the 2-point conversion, go up 29-23. And Uncle
So you're telling me Georgia Tech was up 23-14, and now NC State has scored 2 back-to-back touchdowns, say the least. That's sad. Come on, Georgia Tech.
Let's go, Yellow Jackets. Let's go, Rambling Wreck. And Uncle Charles says, what's up, y'all? What's up, panel and my Alabama brothers and sisters, Birmingham, Alabama? How you doing tonight, Uncle Charles? Thank you for coming in on the chat. We welcome you. We welcome. Call-in link is in the chat. You're welcome to call in. Everyone in the chat, you are welcome to call in to give your take on the Alabama Crimson Tide.
So, like, when looking at Alabama this season, like defense and offense, I mean, compared to expectations coming in, do you think like the defense has done better or the offense has done better overall compared to expectations?
I think we've been all right, I guess.
Hmm.
I expected us to go 10-2.
That was my prediction, 10-2.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny because I didn't have the games going the way they did, right? Like I had different losses, but still I had them going 10-2, and it looks like they will. So
There we go. And we got our buddy from CFB After Dark and a very good friend of the Voice of College Football, the one and only Sean Garner. How you doing tonight?
hey,
Oh,
Sean.
great. Great. How are you guys doing? How are my two favorites guys from the land of Dixie doing tonight?
Oh, we're doing great. How are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Are you guys catching what's going on in this Cleveland game? What's going on in Lake Erie tonight?
Did Miles Garrett throw off his helmet again?
I mean, he's basically taking off everyone else's helmet. He's been all over the place tonight. He's taking off the Steelers' helmet, their jersey, their pads, their pants, their underwear. He is
I wouldn't be
undressing.
going that far.
Yeah, I'm not. What I'm saying is he's undressing the Steelers tonight. He's been making a good DPOI case tonight.
In a good mood. Is Al Michaels in a good mood calling that game?
He seemed neutral, I guess. I don't know. I think he's a little cranky because it's like it's coming down there. We're getting a good amount of lake effect here.
Honestly, I'd be cranky too if I'm going from calling Miracle on Ice to calling a 2-8 Browns team. Like, no offense to the Browns.
You realize it's been like 45 years since the Miracle on Ice, right?
I know.
I was about to say, like, man, that was like forever ago.
Yep, Herb Brooks, 1980.
I went from calling Miracle on Ice to calling this game on Amazon Prime. Well, that's overwhelming.
Hey, the Sunday night football game usually had better matchups. Prime, you don't know what you're going to get. Most of the games can be pretty bad. You get a few decent ones, but a lot of them are bad.
Oh yeah, I mean you get beauties like the Jets and Patriots. That's lovely.
Well, pretty much all I can remember on these Thursday night games as a Bengals fan is Joe Burrow getting knocked out for the year last season, and
nice.
So
yeah, and oh my god, and we're getting.
I know Browns fans are missing Joe Flacco right about now.
Oh man.
Oh man, I still can't. I mean, the Deshaun Watson trade, I still can't believe that. I mean, not even with the off the field stuff. Like Deshaun Watson just hasn't been playing that well.
No, but I mean, like you traded for a guy that hadn't played football in almost 2 years.
And gave him that big of a contract.
You gave him $250 million guaranteed. You gave up like 4 premium draft picks, so you couldn't really build a team around him, and you had no guarantee at all that he was even going to be able to play the next season. You knew there was a suspension.
Like Jimbo Fisher. It was like the Jimbo Fisher contract at A&M, but still might be worse.
No, this is way worse. Plus, you were like alienating like a fairly large amount of your fan base that's not too happy with a guy with like 35 sexual assault claims against him, being the face of the organization. So, yeah, I don't know. It's the worst transaction in the history of sports. I cannot be convinced otherwise.
Yeah, it like I said, it's worse than Jimbo Fisher. It's on that level and worse. And the Jimbo Fisher extension is just abysmal. I mean, I just turned the game on. My Lord, wow.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah, look it up.
Jets making a huge run. Oh, huge!
That is something you boys down in Dixie know nothing about. That is called lake effect.
Jameis Winston right now wishes he was still at Florida State or New Orleans right now or Tampa Bay. My goodness, Jameis Winston. I mean, I like snow, but I wouldn't want to be in that. Honestly, I would not want to be in that.
The thing is, until about an hour ago, that field was completely green. Like, it's just been coming down like this for about an hour straight.
Deteriorating.
It is. It is something else, which could be interesting if we get something like this in December for a college football playoff game. I mean, you never see college football played in weather like this, almost ever.
Mm.
No.
Yeah, it's very rare.
Yeah. So, guys, how are we feeling about Oklahoma this week? Any threat?
Oh,
as long as
beat
Alabama plays well, I'm not worried about it. It's whether Alabama shows up. If they show up like they did against LSU, they're going to beat them easily. But if they play poor like they did against Vandy, it could get interesting. But I don't think they will, because I'm hoping they've learned their lesson from earlier in the year. I don't think Oklahoma's that good. So I think Bama should be fine, but you never know. Should be fine.
Well, I mean, like the thing is, Oklahoma has got their offense is abysmal. I mean, they're so bad right now that Alabama's defense could show up and play a C or a D game, and I think they would still, they would still be fine. Like, they're still comfortable.
It definitely benefits programs like Bama or Ohio State or Georgia when you have so much talent that you can just play a poor game and still win. I mean, that Georgia game against Kentucky earlier this year, that was a terrible game from Georgia, and they still won. I mean, they played like trash, and probably a D- game, and they still won. And that's what people don't quite get. Like, when you look at a team like Indiana, who doesn't have as much talent, Indiana has to play a B or better game every game to win.
Yeah.
And basically this year, they've been doing A's and A's and A pluses all year until that Michigan game. That was their maybe C plus to B minus, and they squeaked it out.
And really, that was just one half, because Indiana completely dominated the first half of that game.
First half, they were fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but. Now that's it's interesting though to say that, like, Oklahoma is a game that you don't even have to, like, as long as you play decently, you don't have to play your best.
Oklahoma's fallen, unfortunately. They're not good. Yeah. They're not very good.
Just like at this point, I mean, I know they've had injuries and whatnot, but I don't know how you can justify keeping Brent Venables around after this season. I mean, like, they're a bad team this year.
I just don't know why they let Dylan Gabriel go. The more I think about it, I mean, I wonder if he just decided to leave because Oklahoma wasn't looking. I still believe in my mind that they pushed him out because they knew Jackson Arnold was going to leave, but Jackson Arnold's been a disaster. Not all his fault, I guess, because the team just isn't that great. But, I mean, Dylan Gabriel, I mean, he made the smart move to get out of there. Because Oregon's really good, but I still think they pushed them out. It's a unique, weird situation. How much better would they be with Gabriel? Maybe a little bit better?
A little bit.
I don't think they'd be much better.
No. I mean, and especially like a quarterback like Gabriel. Gabriel is kind of like a point guard. He's a distributor. Yeah. If he doesn't have anyone to distribute to, I mean, it just doesn't matter. He's not.
To be fair, a lot of QBs are like that.
Oh, yeah.
There's only a few that are so good that they can just be on a bad team and win. That doesn't happen very often.
Well, that's what Michigan's banking on for the next couple years, it looks like. So,
the thing is, if Michigan had a quarterback, if they had Cam Ward this year, they'd have been good. If they had
I don't know. I really don't know about this. Like, a lot of the rest of that offense is so.
It's not great, but the thing is that their defense is so good, though. Like, especially D-line.
I mean, okay, their D-line is their D-line is upper crust. I mean, they are
ranked number
maybe the
one
best
according to Pro Football Focus. It's number one in the nation, and that's how good Indiana did to hold up Rourke at all. And the fact that Indiana was down, they're starting a right guard. He's out for the season. Before that game, they were down him, so. They only had their four other guys, and Indiana lost somebody else in the preseason, so they're down two linemen, and Michigan had the best D-line in the country, according to Pro Football Focus, and Indiana still only held, like, Rourke got sacked twice. That's pretty good. I mean, that's really good.
But like this shows you how much trouble Michigan's been in this year. D-line is one of the most important position groups on the field. They're one of the that can make the most impact. They've got the best in the country and they're still not very good. Their defense, I think, is still ranked like not in the top 40, like in the 40s range somewhere, and their offense is absolutely abysmal. I mean, I guess we'll strike on this a little bit because about the Underwood decision a little bit because that speaks to I think volumes about how dysfunctional the LSU program is right now.
Yeah,
I mean, I think if this team was heading in any sort of positive direction at all, he would have stayed. Even with whatever massive NIL was coming from Michigan. Yeah. I'm like, you look at like, I know, and Bryce Underwood is from like 20 minutes away from Ann Arbor. So, there's that hometown pull for sure. But with how awful Michigan has been offensively and like how sort of mediocre the program itself looks right now. And the offense and like the fact that they have no receivers that can play at all.
Their best receiver is a tight end, Loveland. That's it.
Yep. No, I mean, like they're
nothing.
Their top wide receiver, like if you're just looking at the wide receiver position, I don't even think they've got a guy that's had 200 yards for the entire season. It's absurd how bad it is. And he chose to go there over a program that has just consistently produced high octane offenses that has been as QB friendly as any program in the country.
It could be NIL too. Maybe Michigan offered them more. I think.
They definitely did. There's no question about that.
How many guys have we seen flip commitments? You're seeing it more now than ever. Julian Lewis just flipped. Bryce Underwood just flipped. I mean, Bama guys are flipping left and right in their recruiting class. I mean, it's actually getting obscene. I mean, I think it's ridiculous how many. Indiana just had a guy earlier this year. Their top recruit now. He's a 4-star safety. He committed to Indiana back in June, decommitted. It looked like he was going to Colorado, and then he just recommitted to Indiana. Okay, like cool. And he's like, I'm 1,000% committed. You said that back in June, man. Like what's going on here? It's getting kind of ridiculous. I don't like all these decommitments, man. If you're going to commit somewhere, like at least stick it out a year. Like, come on, don't commit yet. I don't know how you feel on that. I just think it's kind of insane.
Well, I mean, there was more of that going on before NIL than I think a lot of people realize. Like, people did used to flip commitments. I don't think it was to the degree it is now. Now it is basically like if you're following it and you hear some guy committed to your school, you can be like, okay, cool. That means there's a good chance he'll still go here. Like it's not a guarantee at all. Like it just. I mean, there's no reason to throw ticker tape parades over commitments because they'll change in a heartbeat. And even if they show up at your school now, they may be gone in a year anyway, or they may be gone after spring practice. Like but
that's what kills me though, because people get so invested in recruiting, and it's like, why? Because these guys just flipping and flopping all over all other programs every single week. It seems, every year. It's like, why get so invested in something that's just like every year you're fielding a different team? Unless you're Clemson, every team's doing the portal. You're losing guys out, left and right, 10, maybe sometimes 15, 20 players a year to the portal now. I mean, that's how many players some teams are losing. Like Indiana, I know it was different with Tom Allen, but they lost like 40 guys and they brought in 50. So like it's just. Every year your team's going to be different. I get you still want to follow recruiting, but it doesn't make sense to be so invested in it like you used to be when a guy might not even stay committed. And like you said, honestly, it's just better to get a guy out of the portal. How many more times has a guy done better at his second or third stop than his first stop? It's usually how it works. Yeah,
I mean, like you're getting more mature guys, more developed players. It's an interesting era to kind of, figure all this stuff out here. I mean, like there is a problem too. Like if a guy's on his third or fourth school, there's probably a reason for it. You're probably not going to get like a lot of the top level guys like that, but you can hit on a diamond in the rough. I feel like the transfer portals, it's a bit like playing the lottery and stuff. I think it's not a good. What these schools are going to have to become more aware of is they're going to have to really focus on their own development of their own players, because that will if you get a player into the system for 3, 4, 5 years, they're going to be a lot better than if they're going to have a lot more success than if they've bounced around, to 3 or 4 different programs in that time period. They're going to have familiarity with the playbook, with the system, with their teammates. So it's a weird era. Everyone's kind of like, it's trial by fire right now for all these coaches trying to figure it out, which is why people will look to examples like Kurt Cignetti at Indiana this year, or like what Mel Tucker did at Michigan State a few years ago, and think, those are massive portal success. The portal must be the way to go. But people don't realize there's a flip side to that. It's not always going to work out like that. Yeah, Florida State was really, really successful in the portal for 2 years, and look where they are now.
Yeah,
I'm
worried about IU. I'm not going to lie. That next year is not going to be anywhere near as good as this season. I just hope at least they're 7-5, 8-4. If they're 7-5, 8-4, I'm fine with that next year. I just don't want them to fall off to 3-9 or 2-10 like a Florida State. But I agree. It is a lot like the lottery. And I think that Indiana got very fortunate that so many of the James Madison guys did go to Indiana because they were already familiar with Kurt Cignetti's system for several years, and that helped. And then they brought in a couple of really solid guys like Curtis Fork from Ohio, or there was a receiver or two that came. One guy came from Texas Tech, one came from Ohio. Running back came from Wake Forest. I mean, it wasn't all James Madison, but the guys they did get that weren't from James Madison all hit. Next year doesn't mean that it will. They could get transfers and none of them hit. And if that's the case, then Indiana's going to stink next year. And it doesn't mean Cignetti's a bad coach, because that's what people will say. Oh, Cignetti's a bad coach. I think Cignetti's better than Mel Tucker. I think that's proven. When you look at the Michigan State year, Michigan State wasn't even that good. That game that really made me realize Michigan State wasn't that good was when they played Indiana that year. Indiana sucked that year. That's when they had Jack Tuttle at quarterback in 2021. And, Peyton Thorne only threw for 150, had a pick or two. They won 20-15. It was a terrible game for Michigan State. And overall, they just didn't look that good that year. Kenneth Walker led that thing. This year's Indiana team is completely different than that Michigan State team, where they're good on defense, they're good on offense, and they're good everywhere. And as long as he just doesn't lose everybody, if he can just lose, because some of these guys are super seniors, if he loses 10 or 15 of them, and all you got to do is replace 10 to 15 guys, I think they'll be okay. But if they have to replace 25 or 30 players, it's not likely they're going to strike again, because you're not going to be getting any more James Madison guys. So then Indiana might take a big step back. But I agree with you, though. Florida State, Michigan State, even Indiana, you can have success with it, but it's not sustainable. You have to start building. And that's why Cignetti is recruiting hard, because they already have 22 high school commits. He is doing that. He's trying to do it that way, because you don't want to rely all on the portal.
And the thing is, Indiana might take a big step back next year, but it might not. But it might be for the betterment of the program long term. If they make some adjustments, we're not going to fill every gap we have with transfer portal guys. We're not going to bring in 30 guys a year, from the portal, because we want our own players to develop. So, I couldn't imagine Indiana being kind of brutal next year, because they're just going to have to replace so many guys. But if they just patch them up with 1-year rentals every single year, you're just going to have very inconsistent, erratic results. Some years it'll work kind of well. Probably very, very rarely will it work out like it did this year. But, and more often than not, you're just going to have kind of a disjointed, bad football team. If that's your approach every single year, which is how it's been for Florida State. Part of the reason why Florida State, part of the reason Florida State has to get 30 players from the portal every year is because they just don't spend enough time developing their own talent.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very clear. Like, who was the last impact Florida State player that came through that program that spent the entire time there? I honestly can't think of one. It's been a while.
Mm.
So, yeah. Awesome. Shoot. So, all right, guys, I appreciate your time, man. I guess I'll talk with you to the end of this game.
Yeah, it's almost over. It's 3rd and 1.
Yep.
For the Steelers, and they got to go 35 yards. So.
Yeah, well, they can attempt a field goal from right here, so it might be. They got to make sure this play doesn't take.
Yeah, they're down 5, so they have to get it.
Oh, that's right. Never mind. Shit.
You're good.
So, yeah, 35. But
I mean, they have to. If they can get a quick completion somehow, like to the 25, and then go for it, that would increase their odds. But they might just try to go for the Hail Mary now.
Let's see. They don't have any timeouts left.
Yeah, they're probably just going to go for the Hail Mary. It's going to be kind of hard to run anything into snow. Yeah, it's not likely. Yep. This is a bad loss for the Steelers. I mean, I know the circumstances and the weather conditions. This is a bad loss, man, if they don't win. I mean, they're still probably a playoff team no matter what, unless they completely collapse. But I mean, 8-2 on 2-8. That's not impressive.
But I mean, like no, this is the NFL is so weird. The Steelers aren't that good of a team. I don't understand how they're 8-2 right now.
It's over. Yeah, I don't think they're that great of a team either. But I mean, they've been surviving. They've been winning a lot of close games. They almost kind of remind me of the Vikings that year with Kirk Cousins, where they kept winning all these close games. I mean, they weren't that great of a team either.
Well, they were like 13-4 at the end of the year, and they had a negative point total differential.
Yeah, they had 11 wins or something by like 7 or less. It was insane. Like out of their 13 wins, 11 of them were by 7 or less. Sure. I mean, to me, like that doesn't scream great team. Yeah. It just doesn't. Like I wouldn't even be defending Indiana football as much if they didn't blow out everybody they played until Michigan. Like they destroyed everybody. I mean, if they were barely beating teams, then I'd be like, yeah, they're not great. But they destroyed Michigan State, destroyed Nebraska.
If they were Miami, having to
like Miami has not been impressive this year. They barely beaten garbage teams. Cal lost to Florida State, and Miami barely beat Cal. Again, like they should have lost to Cal.
What they lost to Georgia Tech, who I believe is still losing to NC State.
They did win. They did survive. 30-29. Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech did win. Okay.
They scored at the end.
Yeah.
And they should have lost to Virginia Tech. Miami should have lost to Virginia Tech. Should have lost to Cal. I mean, like, I don't think Miami's horrible. They're just not, they're not a top 10 team either. I don't know at all.
Yeah.
I think Miami, if
everybody's wanting to attack Indiana, but people aren't attacking Miami.
Okay. I feel like if Miami goes 11-1 and they lose in the ACC,
they shouldn't get in.
But I think they will. Unfortunately,
they shouldn't get in.
I think the ACC is getting one. I think the ACC is getting one team in. I think that's very likely. I think whoever loses the ACC title game is out.
Point. It's because Miami's a brand and all that, but I mean, Miami is not been good.
I think a lot of people have so much nostalgia for the good old days, the 80s, and I talked about this with Darren Talks Ball tonight. And there's one team that was dominated all the headlines throughout the 80s in all college football, and that's Miami. Do I think
40 years ago?
Do any of us think that teams?
Well, but I mean, like they also were dominating in the early 2000s too. So,
true. Like, do we think? Like, obviously, that if you're we don't think you should be getting in the playoffs because of what you did 20 years ago or 40 years ago or 100 years ago.
It's kind of weird. You guys are probably both of you are probably a little too young to remember Miami being any sort of major player in college football.
Yeah, I
consistent.
I watched the U on ESPN.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I've seen Miami on YouTube, what they were.
No,
I've seen clips, but not live.
you guys are aware of the history of the sport, so you respect Miami's place in it.
Absolutely.
But you guys haven't experienced like the U as the brand and as a dominant force in college football. Like you don't have any memory of that probably at all.
All I've seen is Malik Rozier and N'Kosi Perry junk. I mean,
You guys weren't around for the teams that had Ed Reed, Jonathan Vilma, Andre Johnson, Willis McGahee. Kellen Winslow Jr., who I hate saying his name because I don't even want to recognize him.
I love the touchdown.
Sean Taylor. Wish you could trade places with Kellen Winslow Jr. So,
I love that touchdown celebration with that one guy who thought he was a gunfighter after he scored that touchdown, the 91 Cotton Bowl, where he was like,
"Oh yeah, that was Ronaldo Hill, I think."
Well, he's a cool dude. I tell you that.
Yeah,
right now, he's cool.
Jeffrey, real quick, take on the game this weekend in the IU Buckeye game. How bad of a beating are you waiting for?
I mean, the thing is that it's the same thing with Bama, Oklahoma. If Bama plays well, Oklahoma has no shot. If Bama plays poor, Oklahoma has a shot. The thing is that if Indiana plays like they did against Nebraska and Ohio State plays like they did against Nebraska, it's going to be competitive. Indiana will have a chance. And yes, Indiana can win. It's not a great chance, but they can win if they play really, really good. It's not impossible like most years with these two teams. There is a chance. The problem is that Ohio State recognizes that Indiana is a top 5 team. They're not fooling anybody. They're not sneaking up on anybody. So they're going to be ready for Indiana. I do think all the negative slander towards Indiana is going to irritate them, though. I mean, I don't know if you've been paying attention to social media lately with IU. They're getting destroyed by senators and our government, even. Media members, everybody is just destroying IU, saying they don't belong. My thing is before I make my I made my prediction earlier this week, but I'll say that, and you probably have to go. But my thing is why are so many people attacking Indiana, saying they don't belong and all this kind of stuff, when that's what the 12-team playoff was supposed to be about, getting more teams a chance to get in? That's what I don't get. The narrative went from more teams getting a chance to get in, when now it just seems like they want more SEC teams in, and that's it. Screw IU because they're no good. They don't have great players. They don't, whatever. They're not a brand. Well, how can they become a brand if you don't ever give them a shot to do anything, a chance? They're never going to be a brand. All these teams had to become a brand because of winning, like Miami and Alabama, Ohio State. They all have a history. Notre Dame. All these teams have a history. You have to do something. This is Indiana's first chance to do anything.
And what kills me about this argument is people talk about how weak Indiana's schedule has been, and it has been weak. Yes. I'm not going to lie about that. But they're also ignoring the fact, like, what would this team do what would Ole Miss do going through Indiana's schedule? Well, they did lose to Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, I can name
what would Tennessee do?
Yeah.
What would Tennessee do going through this? Well, they did lose to Arkansas. I mean, like, are the teams Indiana is beating by 30 every week? Are they that much worse than Kentucky? I don't think so. I mean, I'm pretty sure Washington. I'm pretty sure Washington, Michigan, and Michigan State are capable of beating Kentucky. I really do. Like
even Nebraska at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Nebraska beat Colorado. Like Nebraska beat Colorado when Indiana and Ohio State played Nebraska. Nebraska was still decent. Nebraska's choking. They're doing it again. Early season Nebraska, late season Nebraska is two different things. They don't count.
Yeah.
It's
unbelievable. Like, could Matt Rule 2 years in a row start the season 5-1 and not get a sixth victory?
I don't get it. I mean, the UCLA game just had to be UCLA. You're good. Yeah. Nope. But to get back to Indiana, though, I mean, I think they're going to lose. I do think they're going to lose. I predicted 31-21 Ohio State. I think Ohio State's going to win because, I mean, the talent advantage is insane. That's why I laughed when Tommy Tuberville said Indiana bought their team. It's like, dude, everybody's buying their team. Ohio State's got way more money than Indiana. They got Will Howard and Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Downs.
Yeah. You're not getting Caleb Downs to come to Indiana no matter what.
Like, are you kidding me, Tommy Tuberville? Oh, Indiana's a bad team because they bought their team. They don't belong in the like. What?
No, listen. I'm also a Cincinnati Bearcat fan. Tommy Tuberville can shut his mouth forever. I mean, you are. I don't need to hear from you ever again.
Like, it's so funny to me. Like, people are like, even though people are trashing IU, they're still trashing what Tuberville said. Like, IU bought their team. Like, they shouldn't be here, but they bought their team. What has every other program been doing, man? Are you kidding me right now? Like, now Indiana has a chance to get 3-star players instead of 1-star players, and that's just setting you over the edge, man.
One of these days, we'll have to make sure to bring in Senator Tuberville too.
I would love to actually talk to. I'd be like, what were you thinking when you said that? Literally, like, what were you thinking?
Oh
my gosh.
I'd basically ask him, how do you really think Indiana is a bought and paid for team? And do you think there's a lot of teams like that in college football, or is it just Indiana in your
Mikel
mind?
Kamara, the guy that is leading the Big Ten in sacks this year, he literally wasn't ranked. He was not ranked. He was a 0-star. And yet Indiana bought their team, man. Okay.
Indiana does need to kind of suck up to Mark Cuban a little bit in the coming years. They need to get on his good side and see if he can add some NIL to this program. Then they might be something. I mean, Cuban, those pockets don't end with him. I mean, he's got more money than anyone can imagine. So
Indiana has the second largest alumni base in all of the country. And now that NIL,
is that for real? They have the second largest alumni.
They have 905,000 alumni all over America.
Wow! I'm just wondering. They a lot of times those numbers are skewed by like people who get online degrees and stuff. Does Indiana have Arizona State has a bunch of people who get degrees from there, but they live in Maine and have never been to Arizona. You know what I mean? Like, does Indiana have a program like that? Like, how do they get that many?
Maybe they do, but I mean, all I know is that Indiana has a ton of people. Like, it's a big campus. It's massive.
Yeah.
It's just that people are saying that Indiana can't compete. It's like, why has Indiana never been good in football? They never put money towards it. They never tried. They never cared. Now they are. And to me, if Indiana continues to care and continues to try, and Cignetti just continues to stay at IU and win, go 7-5, 8-4 every year, Indiana can be solid. They can get good players. They can get 4-star guys. I mean, you're already getting 4-star guys now in this recruiting class. They got 3. So it's going to keep happening if they just keep winning. But you have to build it up first. I mean, they just never care. They never tried to win in football. Even the athletic director said that, okay, we're good in basketball, even though we haven't been good forever, but we have the basketball program. But it's like, we might get kicked out of the Big Ten if we don't invest in football. He said that. He literally says I don't want to get kicked out of the Big Ten. So
no one wants to get templed. You know, that's so that's
Purdue needs to get their next hire right. Purdue football.
Oh yeah,
Purdue
I know
is in bad shape right now. They are in bad shape. The fall from Jeff Brom to now is insane.
Yeah, I mean, Purdue's lucky because academically, I think they're in a higher standing than a lot of, and for some reason that matters a lot to the Big Ten. Indiana's towards the lower end academically in the Big Ten. Purdue's,
I mean, it is lower, but still good overall.
Oh yeah, everyone in the Big Ten is good. Every school in the Big Ten is a great school.
It's not Alabama.
No. I mean, that's we talked about this on the After Dark program. Ben was talking about. I was surprised the Big Ten didn't invite Washington State and Oregon State, and I'm like, you have no idea what the Big Ten is. If you're surprised they didn't add those schools.
That's why the Big Ten should add North Carolina. It makes sense.
Right.
North Carolina would make sense in the Big Ten.
They make a ton of sense in the Big Ten. North Carolina, Virginia, Duke. Yeah, like those schools make a lot more sense in the Big Ten than they do in the SEC. A lot more.
Because North Carolina even has brand power more so than Virginia and Duke. I mean, Virginia, do academically, like they could be like Northwestern. It would work great, especially with Duke. Duke and Northwestern are very similar programs.
They got a rivalry with Maryland, but that's pretty much it.
But yeah, like North Carolina is the team from the Big Ten that would just be, it's a no-brainer if you're going to continue realignment. Now, I don't really want realignment.
Georgia Tech might fit in that category as well. These big,
the Atlanta Metro, good academics, history,
Yeah, but I hope it doesn't come to that. 18 teams is too many.
I don't want it anymore. Do you think it will? I mean, is it done?
I think there's too much desire. Like these schools in the ACC, especially the major schools, they're losing so much money within that grant of rights deal. You know, Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, they all know that they can get. They're bleeding money every single year, and they're just waiting for a chance to get out of it.
But what happens when those teams, if they leave and go to another conference? I mean, like, what's going to happen to those other leagues? I mean, the Big Ten and the SEC will be so ahead of everybody else that it's not even competitive anymore. It becomes uncompetitive. It already is. But
it is. It is. So, like, I think the ACC can stick around, but it'll be like a much different version than what it is now. It'll be sort of we'll have a P2 and then sort of, and then sort of a AAA level, which will be the ACC and the Big 12.
But you won't be able to keep the playoff system the same way. You can't do it. It already is stupid as is to have the Big 12 and ACC champion be in the top four. But if those teams leave, then those teams are never even going to be competitive.
But it's amazing. The timing of everything was so amazing when they developed this playoff system or the concept of it.
At the worst time.
Yeah, it made sense. How they have it now made sense for when they developed this model. But it doesn't even make sense now in the first year of its implementation.
Yeah, if this was in like the 90s or the 2000s, it would be fine. It would be absolutely fine. Now it just makes no sense, and it's going to get worse. I mean, literally, Kurt Signetti said, like, when he just got this extension, he's like, I chose IU because that Big Ten deal.
Right.
He was like, because he said he was going to stay at James Madison, but when Indiana was calling, he's like, you invested in football? You going to care about football? You going to put that money into football? They were like, yes. They're like, I'm good. I'm hired. Let's go. And then look, I mean, Indiana is so much better than they've been just in 1 year. I mean, the social media growth, people are paying attention to them. They're all over the news. Even if they're a 7-5 team next year, you're staying in the news. Like IU is just building something. I hope it continues. But teams like North Carolina, you're going nowhere. Even if you have an 8-4 year, 9-3, you're in the ACC. Nobody cares. It's like you're second tier. You're second rate.
And not to, I mean, like what the administrators really care about is, oh God, if we were in the Big Ten right now, we would have made $70 million more
triple the
this
money.
year.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, no, and we would have these great TV deals where we know we're going to get like 4 or 5 prime matchups a year. Purdue has had like 3 major, games with major TV exposure.
That Purdue Penn State game on CBS is a joke. That is a joke.
Yeah. How do you think Gary Danielson would have felt like 5 years ago when he's announcing the SEC game of the week every year? Oh, by the way, in 2024 you're going to be announcing a game for a 1-8 Purdue team at 3:30.
It's a downgrade. It's like Al Michaels. It's a downgrade.
And they get some good games, like for
Michigan, Indiana.
Yeah, Michigan, USC. You get some of the marquee games, but you
get a lot of trash. I mean, even the big game, you had Purdue at Ohio State. That's junk.
Yeah.
I mean, we get it. Like Ohio State, the Penn States, the Michigans, you want to put them on major TV because they draw on ratings no matter who they're playing. It makes sense to do that. but those games suck. They're
No,
horrible.
I mean, like it does drive me crazy when I see like an Ohio State when I know we've got a garbage opponent. Like, why are we getting these prime TV spots? Can we put us on one of the streaming networks? Put us on Paramount Plus or the CW or the Discovery Channel or Nickelodeon.
After a SpongeBob rerun.
Right.
Yeah, like that's all it is the SpongeBob network now. Literally, it's been that way for a decade.
Is SpongeBob still on the air?
Yes. It will never end. Tom Kenny and the voice actors are still going strong. I don't know how he hasn't burned his voice out, honestly. I mean, how?
No, I was in Vegas a couple years ago. I actually played at the same poker table as Bill Fagerbrake, who plays who he plays? Patrick, Starfish, yeah.
Oh, and he was on that Coach show.
Coach.
Coach, yeah. Dauber. He was Dauber, man.
Dauber.
Man, he's so good
Coach.
at playing what he plays, man.
Squibber.
No, super nice guy. I mean, like, legitimately an awesome.
The inner machinations of my mind are an enigma. Spilled milk.
So, yeah.
Oh, man.
Awesome, guys. Always great talking to you. I will see you guys sometime in the near future, and hope you have great Thanksgiving day plans, and hope you don't have a horrible like political fallout at any of your dinners or some shit.
We're good to go. Like we know like those people that are gonna make like their whole personalities their team, which
all I know is that it doesn't matter what election year it is and who wins, the meltdowns are funny. Like, it don't matter what side, the meltdowns are funny.
Oh yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
It's just like we always see like that, and it's like you say, Sean, if you're looking for logical thinkers, you're not finding it in the sports world or in politics.
That's right.
Neither. I mean, because the thing is, if you're a fan, if you're a fanatic, right, your thinking gets disillusioned. I mean, like with Indiana and Alabama, I love both teams, but I try to stay level-headed. Like I'm not crazy, like I'm realistic. I don't say, oh, Indiana is gonna go to Ohio State and just destroy them. Like, no, it's not gonna happen. I mean, they could win, but it's a slim chance, So I mean, it's just some people are that way. I mean, or like Alabama, they're gonna go to Ohio State and beat them by 50. And no, I mean, like, no, I'm not doing that, But some people do that. But some people just troll. There's a difference between people that are actually crazy and then trolls. There are trolls. They know they're being, inaccurate, but they're just doing it anyway.
Yeah. Well, if there's ever any year where this message was more important, I don't know what it is, but the people in your life, the people you've known your whole life, the people you love are a lot more important than your feelings about people you've never met who wouldn't care about you if you did meet them. So, so just keep that in mind. There's, the only people you should care about are the people have your back. So,
absolutely.
All right, guys. Happy Thanksgiving if I don't talk to you before then, and I'll catch you on the flip side.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Take
Have
care.
a good one.
See you soon, man. Stay warm. Man, it's always a great conversation with our buddy Sean Garner. I mean, he's got a wealth of knowledge on college football and NFL and so many other things, I can tell you right now. You can also check him out on Twitter/X, and you can check him out on the Blue Sky app, and let's get him to 1,000 followers on each of those accounts. Like for those that use X and for those that use Blue Sky, let's get them to 1,000 on each. But yeah, and we got the call-in link for those who want to come on in. And, if those who want to call in, come on in.
Troy V says plus Ohio State sucks. Signetti is plastered all over the place. Buckeyes aren't coming out flat for this game. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Signetti, the only reason that he said that is that he was trying to fire up the Indiana fan base. Like they were basically just non-existent. Like after the final 3 years of the Tom Allen era where they want to combine 9 games. It's funny that Indiana's won more games this year than they won in their previous 3 combined. That's hilarious. But like Indiana, the fans were just so, non-existent after those 3 destitute seasons that he said that at the Indiana basketball game to get them pumped. Like Purdue sucks, but so does Michigan and Ohio State. I mean, like, I get it. It's fuel. It's fuel, for the Buckeyes, for the Wolverines. It is. And I mean, if Indiana gets destroyed or, even beat at all, like it's going to look bad that he said it because people are going to throw it back at him. I get it. But he had to ignite the fan base. He realized that he had to ignite the fans. And that's why he's saying the things that he does. I mean, he means them, but it's not malicious. And I know that you know that, Troy. And I know most Ohio State fans know that. It's not malicious at all. It's just trying to inject kind of like a WWE match, like over the top, zany stuff just to get people engaged. And it has made people engaged. Like without the things that he said, I just don't think even this 10-0 season would be as epic as it's been. Like the things that Signetti has said along the way, like Google me, I win, and like Ohio State sucks, all, like some just all that stuff. It's helped invigorate Indiana football. It's got people talking, and that's why he's done it. He knows that if they lose, it's going to get thrown back at him, but hopefully that don't happen. Hopefully Indiana doesn't start losing. Even if they lose to Ohio State, hopefully they don't, have a bad season next year, but it's possible. But yeah, but back to Alabama, though.
Yeah.
The thing is with the Crimson Tide is they should make the playoffs. As long as they win these next 2 games, they should make the playoffs. Can't overlook these next 2 games, but they should win as long as they play decent football. But do you see Alabama? Like, obviously, we don't know the scenarios. We don't know where they're going to be ranked. We don't know who they're going to play. But, like, do you think it's more likely than not that Alabama wins their first playoff game? Or do you think that, that it's more likely they lose? It's almost impossible to know.
It all depends on who we go against.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can't even – we don't know. Like, if they face – like a Miami, that'd be perfect. Like Alabama and Miami. You remember that game, Alabama and Miami, a couple years ago? Oh, my gosh, man. That game had a lot of hype, and Miami got destroyed. De'Aaron King had no chance. No chance. But, yeah, if Alabama play like Miami or maybe even Penn State, I think they would be fine. But, like, if they have, a tougher opponent, you never know. You never know.
And what'd you say your final score was again for Alabama, Oklahoma? Because I'm gonna go ahead.
I can't exactly remember, but I think I said like 38-20. I think I said either 38-17 or 38-20. I have to go back and look. I don't write down my scores. I should, but man, I'd have like 500 things of paper if I'd written down every score I've ever predicted. So 500 things of paper full. But yeah, I think I said like 38-17, 38-20. I know I had them at 38. I think probably 17. I think I said that.
When our buddy Johnny Burks, the co-host of Crimson Tide Live, has Alabama winning 35-7. I've got them winning 31-14. Definitely beat the spread on that. And
they should beat the spread.
For sure.
But I mean, it just again depends on how they play.
There we go. And you can shop on Amazon using the link to support the Voice College Football. You don't need to buy the product displayed. Doesn't cost you a penny. Same shopping experience. Here's the link down below. And you can especially use it for Black Friday.
Absolutely.
What have you got going on your adventures this week, Jeffrey?
I'm definitely going to be excited about the Indiana-Ohio State game. Regardless of what happens, I mean, most likely we know it's probably going to be the end of the undefeated streak, but you never know. They have a chance. So regardless, hope it's a great game. And I will be doing the Indiana-Ohio State post-game show sometime on Saturday. I'm not sure when because of the fact that I got some, stuff, busy Saturday going on, a lot of busy stuff with holidays coming around, Thanksgiving coming around. So I'll definitely be trying to get that out later on Saturday. And possibly on the Alabama post-game show. Me and Jackson might be doing that on Saturday night as well. Depends on my schedule, but definitely try to make that happen. But, yeah, definitely got that going on. Looking forward to Bama, Oklahoma. Hopefully they take care of business. And next week, me and Will hopefully will be back to do the next recap and preview show on Only Talk Sports. And definitely, like, Jack's put the link, Indiana at the voice of college football. Definitely appreciate if you guys go over there and sub. We're at 64 subs, trying to build up the community over there on the Indiana channel. And definitely would appreciate if you check out my channel, Only Talk Sports, and on Rumble as well. I got Rumble and I got Twitter/X. So appreciate a follow over there as well. But definitely glad we got to do the show tonight. A lot of fun. Glad Sean called in. A lot of great conversations there. And looking forward to hopefully a very comfortable win for Alabama against Oklahoma this week. No scares. Halloween's over. No scares.
There we go. We don't need any more of that. And, of course, you can check me out on Jackson Johnson 979, where I host my show, The Jacksonian, and I do the Pits Analysis Show, Final Whistle with Austin Williams from Sports Talk with Austin. And Will and I have just provided the college basketball recap preview show as of yesterday afternoon. And let me tell you, it's a fun ride. And you can also check out my updates on the Jacksonian and what I'm doing on my channel and what I'm doing on Alabama with the Voice College Football on Jackson BOCFB on X, Instagram, and Threads on Jackson Johnson 543908. So tell your friends, your family, and the cashiers at Publix about the magic that we're doing on Alabama with the Voice College Football. And before we go, we'd like to tell you about the channel where if you become a Crimson Faithful member for $2.99 a month, you can get a loyalty badge next to your name in the comments and in the live chat, or you can get a custom emoji to use in the live chat, and you get a member shout out. For $4.99 a month, you get access to a monthly hangout with us and priority replies to comments by becoming a Saban disciple. And for $9.99 a month, you can connect on social media with us and give out a content request of any kind just by becoming a Bear Bryant legend. Any content request, like a former player, a current player, anybody on the recruiting trail, a coach, former coach, current, anybody. You want us to bring somebody, we will make sure to bring that person in. We will bring out some more recruiting news that we can guarantee. Anything you want, we're going to fulfill that request right here at Alabama with the Voice College Football.
Absolutely. Appreciate your guys' support in the chat. You guys made the show awesome tonight, and definitely appreciate anybody that becomes a member and appreciate the members that we already have. Always appreciate it. And like Jackson said, we got a lot of great content coming down the road. You're not going to want to miss it.
Nope. And you can also check out the Voice of College Football X account, where you can get top-notch discussion, debate, and analysis with no off-season. And what do you know? The Alabama Call-In Show. Nice. There's Ohio State. Let me refresh that for a moment. Boom. Magic happening. Oh, Georgia Tech. Alabama. Well, you know, Mart's on right now. Tell you right now, we got ourselves a wild ride. Love it. And with that, we wish y'all a good night and sleep well and stay safe, stay cool, stay away from the heat. Well, stay away from the cold in my case.
But, not as cold where I am, but still it's getting there. It's not as warm as it was.
But I can tell you, like, comment, subscribe. Click on that notification bell so you do not miss another video whatsoever or another live stream. We'll catch you soon. Keep that notification bell on so you'll know when the Alabama-Oklahoma postgame show is. And you can also wait for the 14th edition of Crimson Tide Live, where we will have the editor of Touchdown Alabama, Stephen M. Smith, and the creator of E2C Network, Kyle Loomis. And that's going to be a fun show. And next Wednesday, instead of having the Ocho edition of the Alabama Call-In Show, it will not be on Thursday because of, well, Thanksgiving. We're going to have it on next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Central Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And with that, we bid you all a good night. And here's a message from our friend, Mark Rogers.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.